Okay, today I'm going to talk about a problem I come across pretty often. I'll get a call from a CEO, and their challenge is that they have a senior leadership team that's failing them. They're very disappointed, they haven't met their milestones, they aren't doing the things that they want them to do in order to build the company. Basically, the company is stalled. One of the things that's happened, though, is when you look at that leadership team, they aren't made up of what I would consider to be A players. A players, I would define an A player as somebody that doesn't require a lot of instruction, self-motivated, self-driven, capable of getting the job done, understands the bigger vision, understands the company strategy, and is able to execute, motivate other people, and build a great organization themselves. That's what I consider to be an A player. I consider a B player to be somebody who requires a lot of instruction, requires a lot of management. You have to basically babysit them in their role. When they're hiring other people, they're not doing a great job of hiring those people. They tend to hire people that are C players rather than B players, and they never hire A players because that's going to put their job in some sort of jeopardy. And so you never see that happen. And so I'm always thinking about that A player and trying to build an organization around that. So what inevitably happens is that we'll go into an organization and they'll say, this is a situation, and we kind of assess that they don't have the strongest management team and that they need more A players. You don't have to have 100% A players, but it'd be nice. It'd be nice if you did, because there's some people who can do great things, but they're still more of a B player, but they're still pretty valuable to the company. So what inevitably happens, though, is that if you have a lot of B players and you're trying to bring in A players, you have this very, very bad situation occur for some stretch of time where the A players are making demands on the B players. You can't fire them all because then you wouldn't have an organization that functions. And so it's just kind of this messy time period until the culture shifts and it becomes more of an A player type organization. And then things start to go smoothly again, and the company continues to grow. But when you have this sort of weird, messy overlap, it's not a lot of fun, especially if you have quite a few employees who are in the B category. So, but how do companies end up in the B category in the first place with so many people like that? Well, they lower the standards by which they hire people. They're in such a hurry to find a person to fill that role that they're willing to compromise in some way. Often they'll bring in a relative, and I can't tell you how much that's like cancer to a company. And so I'm never at all in favor of bringing, a relationship into it, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, cousin, son. I'm never in favor of any sort of nepotism in a company. I think it muddies the water in the organization. Yeah, it works a few times. There are some great companies that have made it work, but that's the exception, not the norm. In the norm, it tends to be kind of a recipe for a messy company, and that's not what you want. You want to hire people based on the merits of their talent and their ability to excel at their job, not because they're the cousin of your cousin or your friend or you're doing somebody a favor. That's how you end up with a crappy organization. Because think about it for a second. The people who are driven, the A players that you find, are people who are very career-minded. They want to go someplace. They don't want to be overstepped by somebody who got into that role just because they're the friend of a drinking buddy that they know from a club somewhere. It's just kind of an idiotic way to bring people into your organization. You always want to find talent. You always want to make it an even playing field so that those people who come into the organization have an opportunity to work and grow by merit, not because they were just some cousin to somebody or whatever the case might be. That's a recipe for disaster. And so these organizations will build these people that think, oh, I can turn them into an A player. That's like trying to change the character of somebody. That just doesn't happen. And so once in a while you get somebody who's influenced by A players around them enough that they get their act together and they become an A player. Doesn't happen all the time. It's the minority of what I've seen. The majority of what I've seen is that when you have a B team, that company stays kind of languishing as a B team for a very long time. Whether it's a consulting company or whether or not it's a production company at some point. I saw a consulting company that had some of the biggest B players I've ever seen. They were in a presentation and they didn't know anything about the product at all that they were supposed to help represent. And so you don't want to have that situation. You want to be looking for A players at all time. You want to have people who are very driven and very motivated, and you want to be able to get behind them. Don't be threatened by somebody who's smarter than you in the organization. One of the things I love to see is when I go into a company and it's a lot of smart people and they say that they love being there because they're working with other smart people. What a cool thing is that? Too many CEOs go in there and they go, well, I don't want to hire somebody who's that great because they're just going to ride right over the top of me. Well, then that's saying you're starting a company as a B player. And so you're the one who's going to be causing that company to not grow in the first place. And so you don't want to be that type. You're looking for A players. You want to build a fantastic organization, and you want that organization to go someplace. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to follow us and know where we are, you can find us in a bunch of places. We're on middlerock.com, which is our website. Up at the top, you'll see things for upcoming Zoom events that you can participate in. We bring in other speakers and we talk about entrepreneurship. You can also find me on Tom on Entrepreneurship on Quora, as well as Tom Nault on Quora. I also have a personal website, tomnault.com. You can find there, but I don't talk about business as much. So you can find us in all of those different places. And so we hope to hear from you. Write us, let us know what you think. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell when the next one is coming up so that you're notified. And thank you very much for being here.